Hey everybody, Jon Stewart here. The Problem With Me returns to Apple TV Plus on October 7th. But in the interim, let's check in with some of the guests from season 1 for a little update. Now, you guys might remember Jesse Jenkins, energy systems professor from Princeton University.
You can try to hold a company accountable for selling the products that we demand from them, okay? But you can definitely hold a company accountable for going in and opposing legislation that will make us move faster towards a clean energy economy.
Smart bastard. Anyway, since the episode aired, there's actually been a surprising amount of movement in the fight against climate change and the, I believe it was the Biden climate change legislation. And perhaps Jesse could talk a little bit about what that's going to mean for the fight and if that's going to keep us from, let's say, spontaneously combusting.
Thanks, John. It's good to be back and to share some good news for a change. So there's actually a package of bills that passed in the last year, 3 of them in particular, that collectively represent really the first time in history that the full financial might of the federal government is leaning in behind the clean energy transition. And so that changes, everything. All the kind of stuff we talked about on the show last year, the need to invest in making clean energy cheaper, to disrupt the politics and open up new opportunities for progress. These bills are designed to do that. And it's exciting. They invest collectively about $400 billion in making clean energy cheaper for everybody, for American households, for businesses. And the goal is just to make it the right personal financial decision, the right business decision to choose the cleaner options over the dirtier options whenever you're presented. If I were to sum it up in one nutshell, especially given where the funding for the bill comes from, what the Inflation Reduction Act in particular does is it's billion-dollar corporations and tax cheats paying more in their taxes so that all of us can get cleaner, cheaper energy and that we can build more of that technology here in America. So pretty great deal, if you ask me, and I'm excited about the progress that it's going to unlock. So I've been leading a team of researchers at Princeton, Dartmouth College, and a consulting group called Evolved Energy Research for the last year and a half to model the impact of federal energy and climate policies and regulations as they're being proposed. And so we have a good sense of the impact of these bills. And collectively, what we think the Inflation Reduction Act and all of its investments in clean energy will do is cut U.S. greenhouse gas emissions in 2030 by about 1 billion metric tons per year. And that is about 2/3 of the emissions reduction work that we needed this Congress and this administration to get done in this year and the previous year in order to get us on track to reach our international pledge, which is to cut emissions to half of our peak levels by 2030. It doesn't do everything we need to do, but it does do one of the critical things, which is align all of the financial incentives with the right direction that we want to be headed, so that all of the investment that the private sector is already going to be dumping into energy technologies that are going to be pushing into manufacturing these technologies that households and businesses are going to be spending. It's going to tilt the balance of those investments towards the clean options, and that collectively is going to drive a huge amount of emissions reductions directly. The reason I'm also more optimistic is that it's going to do 2 things that makes it a lot easier for future action as well. The first is that it makes all of those actions that any state governments or corporate leaders or local governments take much cheaper because it's taking a big chunk of that tab and putting it on the federal budget. And again, not just on everybody, but on corporations that now have to pay a 15% minimum tax. And so it's a really great deal there. It's shifting costs from state budgets and from household energy bills onto billion-dollar companies and tax cheats. And that's going to make it easier politically for any other level of government to take action. Whatever level of ambition made economic and political sense before, it's going to be that much easier to increase that ambition now that the federal government is picking up a good chunk of the tab. It's also going to make these technologies cheaper in unsubsidized terms by driving innovation, building economies of scale, and improving supply chains. And so that in turn will also make it so much easier to take action. And that is the key ultimately to accelerating progress over time, is making all the solutions we need cheaper and therefore easier to adopt. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. about a range of innovative technologies that are going to get a huge boost from the policies that have passed in the last year. The infrastructure law has a bunch of funding for kind of the demonstration stage, so how to build the first, few commercial scale projects, which is typically a really big financing challenge for early stage companies in the energy space. And so the infrastructure law is going to fund a whole range of exciting technologies in that space. The couple that I'm probably most excited about are advanced geothermal energy technologies. If we've gotten really good at something in the last, decade, in addition to making solar and wind and batteries cheap, we've also gotten really good at hydraulic fracturing and directional drilling in the oil and gas sector. And that has all kinds of, environmental impacts associated with it. But the benefit of that is that all those innovations are spilling over into the geothermal space and unlocking all kinds of new ways to tap into a very clean, the surface footprint is tiny, so there's very little land used, and a very reliable carbon-free electricity source. And so there's a couple of different advanced geothermal energy options that are getting drilled right now, their first demonstration projects, and we'll know in the next year or so, really the next quarter maybe, if they've been able to hit their performance goals. And that's just an example of a whole range of other innovative technologies that are going to be able to get into the market much faster and prove whether or not they work. And not every single one will, but we're going to take so many shots on goal over the next 5 years that I'm really excited to look back 5 or 10 years from now and see the explosion of new options that we have to tackle climate change. And again, if we just look back at the last time Congress tried to pass climate and energy policy in 2009, 2010, again, solar cost 10 times as much as it did today. An electric vehicle battery cost 10 times as much as it did today. And a wind farm cost 3 times as much as it did today. And so that kind of innovation and cost declines that we've unlocked in the past is what these bills are going to do for a whole range of other solutions going forward. And that's just, transformative for the politics and for the affordability and for the convenience of the clean energy transition. And so I think that's going to be the key to unlocking and accelerating this progress over time. And that's what makes me the most excited.